Greetings everyone, Star here, and today I'm wondering if anyone's actually done a PC game and review on the site, but hell, I'm going to do one anyway. Now, we're going to be looking over here, the first CD-ROM based games that was ever released on the PC. This game was responsible for the increase of sales for the CD-ROM drives and got the CD drive in your PC onto the firm market. Yes, we're looking at Trilobyte's The Seventh Guest. Now, this came out in 1993 and was actually classified off as a horror title. Yeah, I probably could say it was a bit of horror based on the sort of thing. But the best way to describe this was basically actually a puzzle game. No zombie shooting Resident Evil fanboys here. No, this is a good old-fashioned brain tester. And believe me, some of the things that you put across to you in the front of this was absolutely mind-numbing. And believe me, I spent absolute weeks trying to finish this game. But anyway, let's move on. What's this game actually all about? Well, the story involves Henry Stauf, who was basically a bit of a bum. Yes, he was homeless until he basically had this envisionment of toys. Toys, yeah. Okay, but anyway, and basically whoever sent him his envisionment, he basically made the toy, and it became a #1 hit. And eventually he managed to start making himself a hell of a lot of money. But then there was also some sort of strange thing behind it all, as the fact that everybody who saw these toys wanted them. Very strange indeed. And then we go on to move on. As he made his money, he had one final vision, as he came across, of a great big house that he was to build. Who the hell is feeding him this stuff in his head, man? If anyone didn't think it was crazy then, you definitely think he's insane by the time you finish this game as you go through. But you couldn't imagine seeing this guy walking down through the streets, whistling to himself and singing happy little tunes. Yes, Henry Stauf was a madman as far as it goes. But anyway, he builds the house, and then he suddenly disappears. Then one day he was given any invitations out to basically 6 guests who was told to basically come and stay the night at his house on him. But he then also put that only one of the guests here will then truly have their true wishes desired, fulfilled and granted. Ooh. Now, what else can we actually say about this? If I had any sort of wish fulfillment, then I'd probably be wishing for a bit more than wanting to be horribly murdered by any other occupant in this house, as that's basically what goes on. During your time here, you basically are the mysterious ego, and you basically have to replay events and discovering just who the 7th guest was, and exactly what happened on that night. As you go through the game, you explore basically what was one of the first is a very large amount of pre-rendered 3D. Now, this was advanced for its time, and it looked very, very good. And you have to remember for the time here, there weren't no 3D graphics accelerators and things like this. So to get it looking this good, it was actually quite a feat. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. So along with the pre-rendered 3D graphics, you also had a lot of FMV-based footage. Now, it was, for the time, it was absolutely fantastic. And Bill Gates himself turned around and said, this is definitely a new standard in interactive entertainment. And it was a new standard for interactive entertainment. We never had anything like this for the time. And this is the whole entire reason why the whole game was released on CDs. As due to the fact that the amount of video footage that was used in this game, you'd never get on the amount of floppies. Now you think about this, back at this time you was able to get 650 megs of information on this one. And this game came on a single disc, and this game came on 2 CDs. 2! So you're talking roughly around the state of around 400-500 floppy disks. Now, could you actually imagine sitting there and going through the installation process of that one? Plus, you would doubt you'd have enough space on your hard drive. Back in '93, hard drives were pretty small, and about a gigabyte of hard drive space was like, oh my god, we have a gigabyte of hard drive space. This is amazing. Yes, it just wasn't feasible at the time, and that's why they actually came out with a pretty good thing that was ahead of its time. And basically they were able to keep a nice constant stream going from the disc, so it's running, so it always ran smoothly. And the fact that it did, there was always a slight little pause, of course, when the animation started changing, but then it was still very, very smooth. The storyline in itself is really quite good. As you go through the game, you actually sit there, and every time you finish a puzzle, it reveals another part of the story and exactly on what happened that night. It goes down to the point of being very adult related and including scenes of murder as well. Yes, these people were quite literally killing each other just to sit there and get hold of whatever their wish they wanted. Now each of them had a different wish. And the characters themselves, I probably would say a bit flat, but rather feasible. Going through a couple that's basically run completely out of money, down to a sort of adulterous sort of character, even down to the old sort of snooty sort of British type guy who just sits there looking around like, oh, look at you, you all smell. Ugh, it stinks in here. And what has Stauf been doing? And that's actually one of the lines from the actual game. And also, as you go about in this wonderfully rendered area, there are also certain little things you can actually click on, and you will actually get very, very nice spooky animations. One of the earlier ones to sit there is if you click on the portrait in the foyer, then basically you see hands trying to push itself out. And also there's another scene in the kitchen where if you click on the cooker, you basically see one of the characters appears and is cooking, then a face basically comes out of the pot she's cooking in. Oh, it's freaky. It really, really is. But lo and behold, I don't want to spoil too much of the story on this one because I think it's a really, really good thing. But I'm going to tell you the reason why a little bit later. Now we move on to what makes this game what it is, the puzzles. Yes, the puzzle games inside this game start off on a nice, easy sort of basis, but they get rock hard when it starts getting towards the end. Now, most of them are good, majority and self-explanatory. And every time you mess up, you get Stauf sitting there taunting you as if you were nothing. Yeah, they didn't have very many taunts back then. They got tedious very, very quickly. But all of them were pretty much a nice, easy single-player games. There was one in the lab, basically, which was like an Othello type game where you basically was playing with amoebas instead of the old black and white tokens. And this actually was an AI-based game, and it was bloody hard. I am talking, it was seriously, seriously hard. But it does come to the point whereas with this game, you actually don't need to finish this game and defeat this one to actually win it. If you do find yourself running a bit short on short of the game and you really want to skip past, there is a book in the library where you can get hold of, and if you look at it a couple of times it will give you clues, and if you look for it a third time it will then finish the puzzle for you. Yes, you can actually do the whole game like this, but then again it will not allow you to do the final puzzle this way. So at least you'll have to do at least one of them before you actually do it. But what sort of puzzles does this entail? Well, it's simple, goes to simple shape puzzles, a variance of word puzzles. There are also a couple of very, very complicated chess puzzles as well. Being one is moving bishops across a smaller size chessboard while trying to not get them captured at any time. And the other one is a knight puzzle where basically you have a whole bunch of knights, white and black, on opposite ones, and you have to move them all into their opposite positions to make sure they're in the right areas. These were fiendishly hard as far as it goes. And then there was also some other strange card puzzles as well. And there was even a puzzle which involves spiders travelling along a pentagram. Yes, and the final puzzle itself is an actual kind of a doll's house sort of thing, where you have to turn lights on. Now, depending on what lights turn on, depending on which ones you click. I never was able to work out the thing behind it, but hey, it was all good fun. Did I finish this game? Yes, I actually did finish this game. I must have only cheated on one puzzle, and that's possibly the one that was in the kitchen, as you need to make a series of words up from the set of cans that are in the cupboard. Now, making up words? How hard can that be, do you ask? When you've got no vowels, it's extremely hard. There's all that's in that cupboard is a can full of consonants, and it's just an absolute nightmare to actually get through. The acting in itself by the actors here, yeah, I'd probably say is actually quite believable, and I say will keep you drawn in. Now we go on to the next side to this, and what do we have? The music. The music to this is fantastic orchestral number done by a guy known as the Fat Man. Yes, it's making me wonder if he was actually a fat man himself. But either which way, the music in itself was absolutely fantastic. There's a nice mixture. The music sat there and it made you feel calm and collected as you play through some of the games. And when you enter some of the more darker, eerier, more atmospheric rooms inside things, you get a nice lower type of tone that makes you feel like you're being watched or anything else like this. And as for Henry Stauf, hell, he is watching you at all times. Like I say, every time you mess up on the games, you can hear his voice mocking you as you get through. And if you actually manage to clear one of the puzzles out, you hear his displeasement just to make sure that you feel that you're actually getting somewhere. Now, when you actually start the game, only a few doors are open, and you can only access a few puzzles. You must finish puzzles before you gain access to more rooms of the house. And the other sides as well, its exploration of the house is actually really quite easy. It's all mouse driven as well, so you can simply click into the direction you want to turn, as the skeletal hand will change accordingly, and then you can just move about as well. And every time you move, you do get a nice little sort of animation, travelling animation as you go into the next area. If this would have been done on a CD, then you probably just have an instant screen switch and say, "Oh look, you're now looking here." There are also some other obvious things as well. There are some hidden clues that are laying around the house, especially when you go under the kitchen. Once you've done the kitchen puzzle, you can actually enter the basement. Once you go into the basement, then and solve the puzzle there to get through without getting spiked, then you actually get yourself a maze. Now, this maze is actually quite large, and but if you actually look around the house, in one of the bedrooms, there is a rug on the floor. Now, if you take a look on the rug on the floor, there is a weave in it. And the weave looks very familiar. Yes, if you look very carefully, it's actually the map of the maze. So you can actually sit down and plan some of these routes a little bit more careful. Now, the music in this game was actually quite inspiring, and the person who actually composed it actually released all the music from this game, and also a sequel game, which was the 11th Hour, onto a single compilation, which was known as 7-Eleven. A couple of years after the release of the game. Now, also, if you actually put CD2 into the normal sort of music drive, all the music from the game is on there anyway. So it's all good from there. Now, big question is, has this game stood the test of time? To me, if puzzle games are interesting, then they always remain good. And because of the sheer degree of hardness of this puzzles inside this game, it always kept me coming back for more, and I really got hell-bent on finishing the game, not just about forgetting the puzzles, but I actually wanted to see the end of the story. And again, I'm not going to spoil it, and I will tell you the reason why, because short time recently, the Seventh Guest was actually re-released on the iPhone and the iPad. So yeah, so this absolute classic is now actually available again on a modern day device. Now, of course, we've had some of the people sit and say, well, why aren't you doing this for Android? And they basically turned around and said, well, we'll think about doing it anyway. Bollocks. It doesn't matter if they want to think about doing it or not. The game runs on an Android handset through the Scum VM emulator, so whether they decide to officially release it or not, it doesn't really matter a jot, because the fact that anybody with any sort of device can still play this game. I do give this whole game in itself a wholehearted thumbs up, and is a very best example of interactivity on side CDs for the time that it came out, and took gaming to a whole new level on the PC. This also inspired various other games, things like Rebel Assault and various other video-based games that came out afterwards. But this, in all, is the one that really held a place in my heart. I still try and get this running every now and then. I believe it runs under DOSBox. So if you manage to get the original ISO images, or if you don't mind forking a few quid over to the devil known as Apple, then I really do say give this a go. It works on any iPhone 3 and iPhone 4, or if you've got that big chunky thing called the iPad, then you're not going to be missing out. And for anybody who doesn't have an Apple device, well, like I say, it can be worked through on an Android device, but if there's any sense amongst them, then I really do recommend they actually re-release this game. Even if it's as it was, it will still be good. Re-release this game and let a whole new generation of puzzle-addicted players get a good go at something that actually came out and that was really good for the time. And if you want to play anything more, this also was released for the Philips CDI. Now, who actually had one of those things? This is ZX Star saying goodbye to you all, and I hope you have a quite a pleasant night, because if you play a game like this, it does leave chills up your spine. Goodbye.